this project, we're going to walk through the Cricut Design Space setup, as well as the full assembly on how to create this 3D floral basket. This is a great DIY gift for Mother's Day or even just for a spring decoration in your house. And you can get all of the SVGs, including the complete SVG, like the whole kit, on my blog today, and I will link that below in the description. Let's get creating. Once you've downloaded all of the SVG files into Cricut Design Space and off of my blog, you will see it like this on your screen. Again, I'm going to make one large SVG file so that everything's all together for this project, so you literally just upload it and basically just change colors and cut. And then I'm also going to provide all of the SVG files for like the flowers and the basket separately if you want to do something with it on their own. However, when you're in here, I'm just going through and I'm changing around my colors using the color sync option over on the right part of Cricut Design Space. I wanted to be able to show you all the layers, so I did make all of the layers, like of the flowers, different colors, and of the grass and the leaves, different greens. You can change all of these individually, so just use whatever colors you choose and what you like for your basket. Those, I always leave up color choices to you. I used a variety of pinks, whites, and orange basically, and like some yellow, but it's totally up to you and whatever you want to use for your flower basket. Now, as for sizing, keep in mind I have this sized so that those inserts, the grass and the flowers, fit inside this basket. My basket piece without the handle is 11.5 inches. I maxed out my 12 by 12 paper. You can make this smaller or you can make it bigger if you have I don't know how you would have, maybe if you have a cameo it would be bigger, but I am just going to do my max size on my 12 by 12 mat. So make sure you're sizing everything appropriately, layer things, check them, but my basket was 11.5 and all my other stuff, so my greens and my flowers, the total size of that SVG was a width about 23.25. So just make sure you're sizing things, overlap and check to make sure you look like the grass fits into the basket on one side. But everything should upload the right size, and I will drop all the sizes down into the description, and I cut everything out of medium cardstock on the fast mode. That's the way I usually cut out all of my stuff. So part one, we're going to start with our basket assembly, and this basket's actually super easy to put together. So you'll have your four sides like this and all of your panels that go inside. I cut mine out using a purple cardstock, and I actually use like a 65-pound cardstock this time, and this basket's really sturdy, honestly. It's not like flimsy. With a lot of these like 3D projects, if I use 65-pound cardstock, sometimes I feel like it's a little flimsy, but this one actually holds together really well, so I'm a little proud of myself with that. So I am just going to put my panels on all four sides. I highly suggest you do this first before assembling your basket because those flaps that we are going to use to assemble will overlap over the basket weave, and you'll see them if you don't do the panels first. So make sure you are doing the panels before anything. I'm also going to list all of the materials and tools below as well as on my blog so that you'll find everything that you need to make this project in one place. It really doesn't need a lot of stuff, so that's a good thing. So I'm gluing down all of my panels just using my craft glue. You can also use hot glue or even a tape gun. And now I'm going through and folding where all of the perforation marks are. I am trying to add perforation marks onto all of my SVG files now that are 3D because I think it's easier than scoring, and that way you don't need to have another tool for scoring. It's just a part of the file already. You don't even have to change anything. You literally just upload these 3D files and cut. So I think it's really helpful, and if you think it's really helpful, please let me know down below, or if you prefer score lines, also let me know that because I want to make these as easy for you as possible, especially if you're a beginner. So on the outside of that panel, we are going to put some glue, and I'm using craft glue still here, and I am going to put these together and let them sit and dry. These fold together perfectly on that seam, so make sure that you are lining everything up really nice and letting it have a good amount of time to dry so that it's not unfolding as you are setting everything up. So there are my two panels. You're just lining it up and letting it set to dry. I don't use a ton of my Bearly Arts glue because it dries really quickly, and also a little bit goes a long way. Also, don't forget that you have a handle that is optional for this box. Do not put that handle on when you are assembling. We are leaving the handle off until the very, very, very end. You want to put your flowers in first before you put the handle on, because if the handle is on, it's honestly going to be a pain to add those flowers in. So as you see here, my flap started to come undone. So I'm just making sure that that's nice and even. And honestly, this is your box. That's it. It was like 2 steps. Put panels in and then fold up the sides. And look, you have a nice little basket. Super cute. You can use this for Easter. I know Easter just passed, but there's always next year. Mother's Day. We can change up the colors. You can use it for fall. You can use it for just like a catch-all box. It's a really like nice versatile box. I recorded myself rolling each flower and building each flower, but I'm only going to show through each one once, just because I don't feel like it's necessary to go over everything over and over and over again. So just watch it over if you feel like you need to learn how to build the flower one more time, since I don't need to go through it 9 times for the flowers. But I am using this quilling tool. I will have, again, everything linked that you need. And you can also use tweezers. You can just use your fingers. You don't have to have a quilling tool, and I don't feel like you need to go out and buy something specifically just to make rolled flowers. Please do not feel like that. So I'm using my fingers here after I got the roll going. Don't mind me adjusting my camera, but I am just rolling those with my fingers, keeping the bottom really flat. And this is my new rolled rose SVG file. I also have a different rolled rose if you prefer that one over. This is kind of like a standard, like classic rolled rose. It's just those like humps. And I just made this SVG this week, so let me know what you think about it. I kind of think it's really cute. I used to really hate rolled flowers, but I'm starting to get kind of the hang of them. So I'm rolling it up, and then I'm actually going to use hot glue on these. I switch between hot glue and my craft glue, but hot glue dries faster, and so for the rolled flowers, and even for the other flowers I use craft glue, but for the rolled flowers especially, I just like using hot glue. So I'm putting a little bit of hot glue on here, and then I'm going to fold down that circle, and I'm honestly letting my rose kind of unravel a little bit. And I know there's a little gap, like don't come after me for that. These are not, I just don't feel like they need to be super duper tight and perfect, and I don't know, flowers all look different. So just do your best to make so that the petals are kind of like intertwining each layer, so that each petal isn't like right next to each other on the next layer. And then I just use my fingers to fan out the petals a little bit. So there's my bottom. It's not super, 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 super tight. And now I'm just folding out those petals ever so slightly to give it more of a flower look rather than everything being so straight up. And there's our little rolled rose, and you're going to do that for all 3. Our next flower is going to be this little white daisy of sorts. And so each daisy has 4 larger petals that are all the same size. And then it has the 2 smaller inset petals that are like really tiny and kind of like a just a really quick up and down. And then it's also going to have the center piece, that big yellow part. So 2 center parts, the yellow center, and then 4 of the layers of the daisies. I suggest kind of organizing it before you get started so that you're not mismatching pieces. I did this both ways, where I started gluing all the layers first and then curling the petals, and then I did it the other way where I curled the petals and then I glued everything down. And honestly, it doesn't matter which way you do it, whatever floats your boat, but I am layering all 4 of my layers here with my craft glue, as you see, just a little bit in the middle. And then I'm offsetting those each layer. So I'm doing my best to put it like in between the spaces, and you don't need to be perfect on this. It's a flower, and when you roll up the sides, no one's going to tell where they are. They're going to look really cute inside, and each one's going to be unique and different, and I love that. And so I'm layering all of them, and then I'm just using my fingers to give them some fluff, as if you want to call it that. You can leave the bottom one laying down if you want, and then just fluff up the top 3 layers. You can use like your quilling tool to try to give it some fluff, or you can use a bone tool to kind of curl it up, but I'm just literally using my fingers to curl it up. You don't need any special tools. Again, I want to make this as simple as possible for you. And try to keep everything centered as best as possible. That's the one thing about these 3 flowers that I did for the daisy and the pink flower. I honestly don't know what the pink flower is called. I just thought it was pretty. Maybe I made it up in my head, but you just want to keep them as centered as possible for these. So there's our base for our little daisy, and see I'm pulling some of those back ones back to give it a little less fluff, but still kind of keeping the petals curled. And now we can make our center once you have all this together. My glue did not dry all the way, and then my top layer started to come off. So just be aware, let your glue dry. And for this one, it kind of looks like a cupcake liner. That's what I kept feeling like it looked like. I'm just curling up those petals as well. And these are a little harder to overlap and turn because they're so small, but just do your best. It's going to look fine. If they're not perfectly offset, it's going to be fine. No one's going to be able to tell. Whoever you give this to is going to love it. So doesn't it kind of look like a cupcake liner? So see, I'm trying to like offset it ever so slightly. You can do that before or after you glue it, but just try to offset it a little bit to give it some more dimension. But even if you don't offset it, it's still going to have dimension because all of those petals are individual. So there's our little cupcake liner center, super cute. And now we're going to add in our yellow part. This is optional. You can leave it out if you want, or you can color it in with like alcohol ink, whatever you want to do. And I'm gluing that in, and then we're going to glue down our yellow center, and that's honestly how you make these flowers. These are pretty simple as well. These are great like beginner flowers if you're new to paper flower art. I mean, I'm not like a professional. I think they're pretty, and I don't think that they need to all be perfect and the same. I like don't know how else to say that. I kind of feel like it comes off the wrong way, but flowers in nature are all different. Like you're never going to come across a flower that's the exact same way as the other flower. And so you can make these however you want. Our last flower assembly is going to be super similar to that flower that we just did, that daisy. These are going to have 6 layers, just like the other flower, plus the center. So it's going to have two big of those fat ones in the back. Then it's going to have skinnier ones, 2 of those, and then 2 small centers, and then that tiny circle center as well. Again, you can leave the tiny circle center out if you want. These are your flowers at the end of the day, so make it how you see fit. I'm just providing the file, and then you need to take your creativity and make it your own. So here are our layers. So I have them all divided out. And you can pinch these all together at once, but I'm going to show you how I pinch them individually. So I have 2. You can do all 6 if you want to. But I'm just taking my fingers and I'm just literally pinching them to give them this like little fold, like a flower petal. It's nothing special. I don't use a special tool, just a pinch with my fingers, and it gives the flower petals like a 3D look. And go around to each one and do that on all of the layers with all of the petals. And again, you can go and do all of the layers for all of the flowers at once. You don't have to do them each individually. You can just kind of pinch and move on for all of them so that you're not pinching each flower. I just wanted to show it individually. And then just like before, we're going to offset and layer our flowers. It's more important with this one, I would say, about being really centered. And you'll kind of see like my first one's not perfectly centered, but then by the third one, I did get it a lot more centered. Again, once it's like in the flower basket, you can't really tell if it's like a little off centered. So don't feel like if you have to redo it, you have to recut. At the end of the day, you're probably going to be the only one that would notice if it's off centered. But I'm just kind of every other layer putting it in between the pieces that need space filled out. And then on those last 2 layers, I'm going to have those face the same way as the back layers. And if someone kind of knows what the name of this flower is, if it does exist, can you drop that below in the comments? Because I don't know what this flower is. Whatever. Maybe I made it up. I just think it's funny. I don't think I did. It kind of looks like a carnation. No, it doesn't. It looks nothing like a carnation. I don't know. Whatever. So just layer them off center each time. And again, I'm using my craft glue. You can use hot glue, whatever you want to do. And I'm doing all 6 layers, and it gives like a really nice voluminous flower. And then for my last part, I'm just going to glue in my center. So there's our flower base. It looks great. And now I'm going to take my craft glue again, the tiniest amount, grab a center and drop it in. You can color the center wherever you want. You can change it if you don't like just the dot. I just went with a dot on this one. Nothing fancy, but I really like the way that this flower turned out. So now we are getting to our inserts. So you'll have 3 grass inserts. You can cut as many or as little as you want. Just delete them, hide them, whatever. And we have 3 flower inserts. So I am going to fold on the sides. These are going to be your panels that you're going to hot glue into the basket. I'm going to do my best to show you this from overhead. It is a little difficult to see. And you're going to try to make them evenly spaced out and also even across the basket. So you don't want your basket, like your grass, lopsided. I know that sounds really strange, but I actually do it at one point and I fix it. So I'll point that out when I get to it, but I'm folding on all of those perforation lines. And then I am going to alternate. So it's going to be grass, flower stems, grass, flower stems, grass, flower stems. So I have this, and you just pop them in, and then we're going to use hot glue on those side panels to attach it to the walls. So they fit flush to the bottom, so it'll fit perfectly. That's how you know it's in all the way. You don't want them up because then that flat part, that green part's going to be sticking out. So I'm just using hot glue. You can use craft glue or even like, what is that called? An ATG gun, whatever you want. ATG, America's Got Talent gun. And, you can pop that in and then just secure it. So this is the back of the box where this grass is. Obviously it doesn't really matter which side's the front or the back, but I'm considering this the back of the box. So that's my grass, and that's my first layer, and it is flush against that back. And then I'm going to put the rest as evenly spaced out as you can throughout the box. So I'm putting it in like this with my panels, and then I'm going to hot glue, and I'm going to do this for all 6 panels. And I'm trying to leave like the same amount of space in between each one. So just use your eyeballs to kind of measure the panel and the space in between to evenly space them out. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just try to evenly space them as much as possible. And again, I'm going in with my hot glue on both sides and then sticking it into that box. I'm going to jump ahead to where I kind of put this panel in like on a lean so you can kind of see it. I mean, I kind of feel like the grass was on a lean too, but you'll see it's not like super even. And so I just literally pulled it. It kind of ripped my box on the inside a little bit, but guess what? No one's going to look inside the box once the flowers are in. So don't worry about that. And then I just went back in with my hot glue and made it a little more even. And again, you're doing all 6 panels like this. And then when you get to the last panel, which I'll jump ahead to again, you're going to turn those side pieces that we're using to glue down the opposite way. So we're going to put in our last grass and then switch over to our last panel. So now I flipped over my panel. You'll see that those panels are now facing the opposite way of all the other ones, and I'm just sliding that in as well. You can also just glue it to the wall if you prefer. I just left the panels in for each one. It doesn't hurt, so why not just leave them? And there are all of your sections for your box. This is how it should look with 6 different sections. And now I'm going to fold these down. So these are your stems, and you can keep them as high as you want. I at first was like looking at this, and I folded them in like opposite directions, but just fold them all in the same direction. There's no point in folding them in opposite directions, honestly. Fold them all in the same direction. You can fold them opposite. It doesn't affect anything. You can change everything around at the end of the day because we're just filling in the space. And honestly, the flower petals and the flowers themselves take up so much space that you don't even see these at the end. They're kind of hidden. So now for each one, I'm just using a little bit of hot glue on my stem or on my flower, and I'm just going to secure it right on. Of course, I dropped it, right? And I put hot glue right in the front of my box, but it's okay. It happens. I was cursing here at this point, but it does happen. So I'm just adding on my flower, and the way that I put all my flowers on, me picking off my hot glue, was I did them like the pink flower, orange flower, white flower. Then the next row I went white flower, pink flower, orange flower. So they were all cascading through and they weren't like in a straight line. So it was like, I don't know, like a tic-tac-toe board, I guess. I'm not sure how else to describe it. But I'm literally just putting a little bit of glue and then popping that flower onto the stem. Nothing else to it. That's all you have to do. Between the grass and the size of the flowers, they don't fall down. They stay within that little section of the basket. So you don't have to worry about like falling into the basket. Mine didn't, at least. And I'm using 65-pound cardstock here for the whole project.
You can use a higher paperweight, but for some reason I like using 65-pound for the for flowers. But if you want for the grass, you can definitely use like an 80-pound weight. It might hold up even more, which would be awesome. But that's it. All you have to do is just glue all the flowers down, and then I'm just going to go through and glue down the rest of the flowers. And there is all of our flowers inside our basket. So this is exactly how I placed it. I just moved around the flowers like if they were like standing up too tall. And now your last part is to grab all of your leaves, and I just give them like a little pinch to give them some definition. And honestly, I just grab a little bit of hot glue and I glue them all over the place. I made two leaves per flower. You can always cut more if you want. So I have 18 leaves, and I didn't actually use 2 leaves per flower. I ended up kind of placing them randomly wherever I felt like there was really empty space, and I'm going to leave that to you as well. So just place these wherever you feel like you have a lot of open space, and like in the front, don't just place it onto the stem. Either place it like below the basket so you can't see it, or place it up on the flower. Like it just looks a lot cleaner rather than just placing it on that stem. So let's just go through and place all our leaves on. And once you have all of your leaves placed, again, I did them so randomly, I'm not going to tell you where to place your leaves, just a little bit of hot glue or craft glue, and then up underneath the flowers, wherever you feel like you need space. And you can always cut more and put more in. You can really do whatever you want with filling things up. You can cut more grass if you feel like you need to, or you can even fill it with like that fake moss. That would look cute too, right? And that's it. That's your basket. Now, I did give the option of a handle. I did not glue mine on because I wanted to be able to take mine on and off. But you're going to glue this on the inside of the basket. I suggest using craft glue. I mean, you can use hot glue, whatever you want. But on the inside, in between, there's like 3 triangles. That's going to be where you're going to put it, on the inside of the basket. And there you have your little floral basket. It's so cute. I'm really proud of the way it turned out. So I hope you enjoyed making it as much as I enjoyed making it.
Thank you so much for joining me today as we made this 3D floral basket. If you haven't already and you enjoyed this project, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and also turn on your alerts so that you get new Cricut projects every week. Stay crafty!